Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to the first match this morning. And this is definitely the tie of the round. Greg against Gav. I think both players will be quite disappointed that they're playing each other. I think it's quite an even match. Although judging by the bookies odds, they have Greg at 1-2. So that means Gav's at 6-4, which I personally think's a really good price, but Greg's been playing quite well, so apologies again for the dodgy voice. I've got man flu. First time I've watched Greg playing this tournament, and strange where he was breaking off from there. He almost put the cue ball in the jaws of the pocket, but he's obviously worked on that and worked out that he's getting balls tracking to the pocket, and he made one there into the middle. I am on my own this morning commentating, so if any of you have any questions, then I'll try and get through those on the live chat. There's 3 stream tables here. If any of you would prefer to watch any of the other matches, there's table number 2, table number 3. There's no commentary on the third table. There's only one commentator actually on the second table. Decent pot there from Greg. Actually disappointed if he doesn't win the frame now. If any of you do want bets on any of these matches or any of today's matches, then Jed is doing all the books, so you can contact him on Facebook. Going to take the top yellow here and just bump the red out of the way. Although they're easy, he kept the cue ball exactly where he wanted it, so it was nice to get the first frame on the board, especially the first match of the day. Stephen Lambert, good morning. Yeah, it is black ball rules. We spoke a lot about people racking the balls up offset to the right-hand side yesterday, and the guy came on and with a really interesting view on it, that saying that people have astigmatism in one eye, and he was saying it's more liable to be in the left eye, which causes you to be right eye dominant and to set the rack up to the right-hand side. And Gav Lomax set the balls up completely dead straight there, and so did Greg when he racked them up. I think it's even more important that the rack's completely straight when you're cut breaking. Obviously Greg cut broke, and the reason that's more important is because if the rack's offset to the side, it means that you can see more of the side of the pack from one angle. Might have time to go and make yourself a cup of coffee during this frame. Yeah, people on the chat saying that this is a tough game to call, and I think it is too. People going that it's going to be close, and the bookies have Greg 1-2. I presume that that price is reflected in the money that's been taken on him. Today's the day really where you need to be for the winners from last night. you're looking to just go straight through the winner's section, straight to the last 8. It is double elimination for those of you that don't know. And then from the last 8, it's then straight knockout. And I think it's important that you go straight through the winner's side, straight to the last 8, just to conserve a little bit of stamina, really. If you were to lose a match within one of your first 2 matches, then that's a long way back through the loser's side, which would mean a lot of matches today. It's obviously possible because both the guys that got to the final of our last event, Scott Ross and Rob Warren, both came through the loser's side. But it is a long way back, and it is a tough school for the loser's side because it goes to race to 8. Jackal says, why have the line break from anywhere on the table? I've never heard anyone suggest that before, Jackal, and I'm not sure about that one. I think you have to have the line. You have to be restricted where you can break from. But I do agree with the foul should be cue ball one and anywhere on the table and not 2 shots. Yeah, I think Lauren was giving you a bit of stick there, Jackal. I think it's just deserved, to be honest, with that comment. But did say that this frame could take a while, but given the way that the rules are set up, they are designed to be a lot more attacking, especially compared to world rules. But to be honest, I think Greg had a chance to get him there. I think he obviously he's missed the ball. He's played it with too much run inside, but had he potted it and stopped the cue ball a couple of inches short, I think he could have potted the red into the left corner and screwed onto the yellow and kicked the black over the middle. You can still play my shot now. You can either play off the red with a little bit left hand side and pot the one over the pocket and then play my shot, or you can just pot it direct, bump into the red and then play it. I don't think he will. I think he'll just play the one over the hole and try and snooker him behind the other one, but he's got him in a decent snooker here, actually, because I think he needs to play this with a bit of right-hand side. And that's... I thought I was going to say that was a foul, but the sweet's the rail. All of the balls actually now pot without playing a cannon. Even the black passes the yellow into the corner, but not quite as simple as that. You can put the one into the right corner, screw up and get the angle on the one in the middle to drop the white to the side cushion, somewhere near the knuckle of the middle, and then you can play the plant. and bump the yellow away, which then makes the black unmissable. This looks perfect. He can just drop. Well, he couldn't put that better with his hand, I don't think. I think he can just drop inside the black now. He's just shaking his head, but I don't know why. I think he's perfect. I think even if he's not, he can just play it with the tracer right-hand side to narrow the angle. I'm convinced he's absolutely perfect here. I don't know what he doesn't like, but I'm sure he can just drop the cue ball to the rail here. Same result. Now he is perfect. So now he'll bump onto the yellow and just to move it out of the way. Obviously the black does pass, but it does look quite tight, so it won't be tight in a minute. Surprised he didn't just bump onto the yellow there. Now has to play a screw shot, so he wants the cue ball sort of in the middle of the table, just to the left of the blue spot. Anywhere between the blue spot and the middle pocket is perfect. Nothing for short here. Even if he overscrews it into bulk, he's got some sort of shot. This is perfect. He just winced there. I just saw his face and he had a little wince when he played that shot, as if this was tight, and that's why I was saying, why not bump the yellow out of the way, which makes it unmissable if it was tight. Looks comfortable, Greg. Got the cue ball under control. This table is absolutely lighting, and the cushions are really bouncy, so even an easy finish is sometimes not that easy on this table. Granted, the pockets do play big with the new cloth, but keeping hold of the cue ball isn't as easy. As you can see there, every table has got a brand new, has got a brand new tablet where they update the scores live onto QScore. So if any of you that have had a bet or just want to keep track of the scores, you can go to QScore and all the live scores go on there as they update the tablets. Made another ball into the middle. And that's what I was saying about it's important that these players rack the balls up straight, because when you cut break in there, if that was offset to the right-hand side, that would mean Greg could see more of the yellow. I'm not saying that he did offset that, by the way. That was dead straight, but that's why it does have to be straight. I fully expect him to get these yellows also. He's just looking where he's pointing his cue. He wants to pot the one in the middle, maybe with a little bit of right-hand side to narrow the angle, come off the side cushion and just bump the yellow and then knock the other one down towards the pocket a little bit. So into the cushion. push the one down, and I think he's landed on the one in the middle, and if he is on the one in the middle, he can play a little stun shot and just bump into the red now. I don't know if he has got that angle. So just like that, he had that angle just to bump that red away, and that changes everything. I think he's just okay. The fact that he can play the plant onto the red, he hasn't got to worry about catching the red first. If you had to play it directly with the cue ball, you have to make sure, obviously, you don't touch the red first, where this way he hasn't got to worry about it. Oh, I think that's a bad shot. I think he had to play that hard with screw, because when you screw it, you make the other yellow follow through. The spin transfers onto the object ball and pushes through, and that would have gone over the pocket had he ever screwed it. So this is what the second time that Gav's really been to the table, and it's not nice. He's got the only shot I can see is that he plays the red long inside the black and tries to cover the pocket. It's a decent shot. I think the only option that Greg's got is to snick the red across, the yellow, sorry, across the back cushion and just try and get the black pocket. He has got an option to try and pop the yellow that's over the middle into the left corner, but the cue ball could be anywhere. That's what he's playing. He's trying to cut it over to the left corner. As you can see there, I think you'll know if it's in before him. Oh, he'll take that. Obviously didn't play off the yellow, he played to pot it direct, but so Gav's going to have a go at this finish. The red does go inside the yellow to move the yellow away from the pocket, so he's going to have a go, but they're not easy. Worst case, I think he'll have a double at the black. I think on an English 8-ball table, doubles are not that easy, not that hard, so I think if he gets good on the double, he'll pot it. easier to double the black into the middle than the corner if he gets good. You know, if he gets the cue ball sort of just below the bulk line, quite close to it, he'll definitely pot it. So he needs the cue ball somewhere around the blue spot. I think judging by his face, he's on it. He hasn't pulled his face, so I presume that he's on it. And that was one of those shots again where if you're short, you're dead, and even if you're a little bit too heavy, you've got to. No, I don't think he is. He's having to turn it over. That's one of them where if you over hit it, you're guaranteed a shot. If you under hit it, you've sort of got no shot. You can see there he's digging down to just flick round it. Quite a good temperament, Gav. He got, when he potted the red in the middle, he walked around as though he was on it. Obviously, as an opponent, you're looking for the expression. Can't really miss this, it's a big pocket. And wanted to be on the one over the top left corner next to the black next. I'll play this with left hand side just to take the cue ball down somewhere over the line of where his hand is. He's got inside it. Ooh, ooh. See, he didn't play it with any left hand side, he just played it plain ball. Had to just flick that with a little bit of left hand side, dead weight. But he has got a shot here, and this is one of those shots where you can either play it one rail or two rails. If you play it two rails and hit the yellow, you snooker him. But you can't pot it playing it two rails. If you go one rail, you can definitely pot the yellow. But if you go two rails and get it right, you're going to wedge him in behind the black. I think if he pots it, he'll flick the black and maybe land on it in the corner. He's played it quite hard. See, it slid. See, I like that shot, two rails. I like that, playing it slow, two rails. And you can just wedge the white in behind the black and not really move the yellow away from the pocket. And psychological side of the game is obviously huge, and I think even though it's only early on, I think Greg will be wounded to be 2-1 ahead and Gav will be over the moon to be 2-1 behind the way that the match has gone. Gav hit that break really hard, but he just didn't rack them up very good. It's all right having a big break, but if you don't rack the balls up properly, it means nothing. You're playing against a good player like Greg. If he's getting first chance at the table every time, then you're going to lose the match. As simple as that. He's not obviously going to get every finish he goes for, but if he's getting first go, then you can't possibly win. It's a really good shot he's played there. So you can see how fast that second cushion was. Oh, it's a bad one. I think this is the hardest part about playing 8-ball, or certainly any cue sport, is when you make mistakes, and everyone is going to make mistakes, that you've got to then stand up the next frame and be able to take the finish out as though nothing has happened. And so many players, once they make a mistake, they go on to make a lot of mistakes. Everyone is going to make mistakes during the course of a match, especially a race to 11. It's just obviously cutting those down to a minimum, and when you do make a mistake, you have to forget about it and play the next frame as though nothing has happened. It's no coincidence that when somebody makes a mistake, the very next frame or the frame after that, they make another mistake and another mistake. It's because the first one's affected them. I'm not. Oh, I think, was that? I'm not sure if that was a double hit though. I'm not sure if he double hits the cue ball here, you know. You see, I think he double hits the cue ball there, because if he doesn't double hit the cue ball, he can't possibly get the cue ball to go where it's gone. He can't possibly generate that much topspin to get the cue ball there, can he? When the cue ball is an inch away from the object ball, he can't possibly play that with enough topspin to get the cue ball over to the side cushion. That has to be a double hit. Especially, you know, with the lighter cue ball. I wouldn't mind seeing if we can get another look at this. Might be hard to tell from dead on, but I think sideways on you'd be able to see it, certainly if you slowed it down. I'm convinced that was a double hit. Here we go. So if you look where the cue ball ends up, here we go. Not really conclusive on there. It's just where the cue ball goes. I don't know if he can get that much topspin with such a small space between the cue ball and the object ball to get it over to the side cushion with the light cue ball. Here we go. You just see how the white delays. Can we get that one once more? We'll get it. He's going to break. We'll get it again. Here we go. See, there you go. That was a double hit. It come back and hit the white. The cue ball comes back and hits the tip. It definitely does. All the guys here at the beard are saying it does. It comes back and hits the tip. It was 100% a double hit. And even though you physically couldn't see it with the naked eye, it was a double hit. The way you know it's a double hit is because of where the cue balls ended up. Obviously, they've got the technology here to be able to slow that down and keep bringing you that replay. Eventually, you can see it when it's slow enough. But the way to work it out is where the ball goes. So effectively what happens is he strikes the cue ball hits the object ball, he doesn't have a chance to move his tip away quick enough, it then comes back, hits the tip quickly, and then that creates the topspin. We were just, I was just talking to Paul from Beard there regarding push shots, and under the world rules, it's the most stupid rule ever invented, that it states in the rules that push shots are allowed if played with pace. That's not the case in black ball rules, by the way. Push shots are not allowed. So that shot that Greg just played there was a foul. But in the world rules, it states that you can play a push shot if played with pace. And the reason that's the most stupid rule I've ever heard in my life is because what's played with pace? If I was playing against you in a frame and I play a push shot and you say, that's a foul, and I say, why? And you say, well, you just played a push shot. And I say, yeah, okay, I played a push shot. And then you say, well, you played it slow. And I say, no, I played it fast. So what defines fast and slow when there's two people playing a match for, well, certainly in this case, in a tournament for £7,000 the winner, and I say no, I played it fast, and you say no, I played it slow. So push shots shouldn't be allowed. They're not allowed in any other cue sport. Well, not in any proper one as I'm aware anyway. Jackal says, is the prize money here bigger than the IPA World Championships? And yes, it is. The last event we had here was 10,000 to the winner. This one's 7. The series next year that Lee's looking at doing, 3 of the events are going to be 5,000 to the winner. The 4th event's going to be 10,000, and then the grand final is going to be 40 English to the winner. Bad miss there from Gav. He had obviously cue ball in hand with 7 balls in the middle of the table there. He's also left him an angle on this to screw across to land on his ball at the rail. Stuart says it's a difficult rule without a referee, especially if the opponent wasn't sure. And no, I agree with that, because there was only me that spotted that was a push shot, and even Gav didn't pull him up on it was a push shot. And listen, I've absolutely no doubt that Greg didn't know it was a push shot either. I'm not for once saying that Greg's played that knowing it was a push shot. I honestly don't think he did. But the way to work out a push shot is by knowing that where the cue ball finishes. Where the cue ball finished, he couldn't possibly generate that much topspin from how close the cue ball was to the object ball. There's some that are obviously blatantly obvious, but the rules state that you're allowed to play them in, well, certainly in world rules, the rules state you're allowed to play those shots, which is what I'm saying is a load of rubbish. Oof. But yeah, that one was a tough one, and so there you can see that those are the events for next year, the series, the tour that we're going to be doing here. The dates are on there and the prize funds are there. The last one there shows the similar prize fund breakdown, but there's going to be a bonus that's added to that prize fund that's accumulated from the other 4 events that obviously generates the huge prize fund of 40 to the winner. Chimful says, good spot to notice. He'd done that straight away, though. Not just a pretty face, Mr. Chimful. I need to just make the numbers up. But no, obviously, you know, when... I don't play this game anymore. I play the Chinese 8-ball. You know, most days you sort of know that the way that the balls react, and especially with the balls being so light and then the cue ball being even lighter than the object ball, sometimes it's just physically not possible for the cue ball to go in a certain place without it being a double hit. It's just physically impossible for him to, when the cue ball was sort of half an inch away from the object ball, it was impossible for him to generate that much topspin by hitting the cue ball so softly to get the cue ball on and off the top cushion over to where it was impossible. Stuart says, how long do you think it will be until we see refs at these events, especially with the increase? Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal to have a referee on every table, but obviously there's a cost into that. And the cost from that would obviously have to come out of the prize fund. So whilst the events are played by the elite 80 to 128 players in the world, it's okay at the minute. Maybe you could slowly introduce it where you did on the last day the two mainstream tables, the two semis, and then the final where you have just a referee for those two semis and then for the final to start with. I just think when you're running big events and trying to get things off the ground, you have to do things in stages. And the most important thing is the players are happy. They feel like they're getting value for the money. They're getting paid out their money. And at the end of the day, it's the money that talks. If the prize money is high enough, the players will play. I've always said that. Even when I was playing in on the English 8-ball circuit, if the money's high enough, then the players will come and play. And I think that what he's looking at doing next year does show that the rules really are relevant. If the money's high enough, the players will come to play whatever the rules are. I personally think the black ball rules are miles better to watch and to play from a spectator's point of view, from a commercial point of view, from an attacking point of view. But I just think whatever the rules, I think players will come to play if the money's big. Certainly 40,000 to the winner. If it gets to that, then that's going to probably attract all of the old great English 8-ball players that have now moved on to do different things. So just back to the pool there, and that's why I was watching the way Greg was sort of planning that finish. And when he had 3 balls left, he had 2 options. He could have potted the red into the middle, nudged the yellow away, and then played the double on the one he just missed. And now he's done that, I think he, at the minute, Gav hasn't got a clue where the cue ball's going. He's just actually laughing to himself there as he's walking around the table because he just hasn't got a clue what's happening with the cue ball. And see, with Gav, he seems to play everything with like a ton of side spin, and when the table is playing as slippy as this and as quick and as brand new as this is, you need to play with a minimum amount of side. You see, everything is just loaded up with side, and where's the cue ball here? That's terrible. But if you keep cracking him in like that, then it's not too bad. That's a really good positional shot, to be fair. But it was still terrible because he should never have been he should never have had to play that shot. One thing I will say is, I do keep saying, and it is hard to pick it up on the camera, as good as the pictures are that Pia'd bring you, it is hard to pick it up exactly how quick this table is playing, especially the cushions. And when you're under pressure, you then become scared of hitting the cue ball because you know how quick it is. So then that means that you decelerate. As you can see there, the match stats. I think Greg, I think Greg's potted off all 4 of the breaks. Oh, sorry, all 3 of his breaks. This is his 4th break, and he's made a ball from the cup break on the other 3. Gav's potted once. I think that's a really good new piece of technology that Beard are bringing you there that allows you to see all that match stats. In every other sport that you watch, you do see all of those sort of stats. you know, something like tennis, they have a million different stats, you know, even, you know, the serve placements, and they have a million different things, and I think it's great that they can bring you all of those stuff. Balls potted from the break, dry breaks, break and clear. Balls missed, unforced errors, those are important. I think the unforced error one is a little bit of a grey area one, because an unforced error does that mean that if you miss a ball, okay, if there's a ball sitting in the middle of the table, you miss the ball, okay, obviously that's an unforced error. But what if I play a really good safety shot and get you glued under the top rail, and then you miss the ball that you're going for? Is that an unforced error because you've actually tried to pot it? So is that my good play, or is that your unforced error? When you're playing a sport where you control what your opponent does, then it is a bit of a grey one. What I mean by when you're playing a sport that you control what your opponent does, for example, at darts, you throw your 3 darts, you take them out, walk back to your seat or to your table, and then your opponent throws his 3 darts, and you don't influence what he does. You don't throw your 3 darts and then leave him in the treble 20 and say, try and get your 3 darts around that if you can. Which is effectively what happens at pool. I can put a ball over the pocket and say, well, you ain't going to put one in that pocket. So you know, people coming on saying what a great job that Lee's done by getting this event and these events off the ground, and by getting all 3 matches streamed. As you can see there, that's a great camera angle that gives you the view of the other stream table, but there is 3 matches that are streamed, and they're saying that it puts the UK pool tour to shame. And to be honest, I think it puts all of the other tours to shame, and not to shame in the sense of, you know, that they don't have their own streaming and whatever, but I think the bottom line is it's all about the prize money. You know, as I said yesterday, they're still playing for the same prize money on those tours and at Yarmouth and whatever the rubbish you want to talk about. They're still playing for the same prize money as they were in the late 80s and the early 90s. It's just a joke. Everything else goes up, the cost of living, your expenses, everything goes up, and yet they're playing for the same prize money as they were in the 80s when you could buy a house for 15 grand. It just makes absolutely no sense. And you're playing a sport that is the second most participated sport in the UK. So it's about time that there was a tour or some tournaments with proper prize money that gives players value. And not only gives them value, but they know that what they get told is going to happen, and they're going to get paid their money. And winning one of these events, certainly one of the events next year when they're open to all of the best players in the world. And listen, for the prize money that's up for grabs, all of the best players in the world will be playing. When you win one of those events, you have achieved something, because all the best players in the world will be playing. When you win one of the tours at the minute, it's like, well, the best players in the world are divided between both of the tours. So you haven't really won a UK tour, you've won a tournament with a field of good players. Have you won the World Championships if you win the IPA or the EPA? Well, no, not really, because all the players are now divided. So in my opinion, the World Championships, the list of winners should have stopped when the split happened, and that includes me winning the IPA one. Now, if you ask me how many world titles I've won, I'll say I've won 3 when it was properly. And that's just me being true to myself. Now, if Mick Hill saying he's won 4 of them, well, okay, I have 2 then. I've won one of the black ball ones too. But if you're being honest with yourself, it's never been proper since the split, because all the best players are not playing in the same tournaments, and However you want to dress it up, that's the truth of it. And that goes exactly the same for the... That goes the same for the international events. All the best players don't play for their countries. But I'm not going to get started on all of that. There you go again. Gav has got the cue ball on a piece of rope, but still somehow manages to keep potting him. But I'll tell you something, he won't be able to keep doing this, certainly over a tournament. So Mark Bailey says, you ain't filling the comps next year if it's open to everyone. Why is that, Mark? Because people like you say so? Because people like you are such small-minded that you think that you're not going to enter the tournament just because the best players are playing? As I said before, when I first started playing English 8-ball at 7 years old, what you strive to achieve is to be the best that you can, to be ranked #1 and to be the world champion. And then when you get to that, or get to be in the top 8 or the top 16, why should you be restricted from what will be the biggest event that's ever happened in English 8-ball? It just doesn't make any sense. And to call it the elite tour or the biggest tour that's ever been, then you have to have the best players. You have to have them to give it the credibility. At the minute, there's nothing else. What the tour will cost you to play with those 5 events is there or thereabouts what the other players are playing to play on both of the tours. So it's no different. The only thing that's different is the prize money is 10 times higher. The conditions are as good, if not better. The tables are always brand new. The prize money gets paid out in cash. Everything that Lee has ever said running the tournaments has always happened. He's never said anything that's never happened before. And I'll be completely honest, I've told him that I think he's absolutely crazy doing that amount of work for only having 5 events held at the club. And because that's all that he gets out of it. And that's all he was going to get out of it. And I told him I think he's crazy to even consider doing that amount of work. But as is everybody else, they're just fed up with having nothing to play and with no value. So he's decided to do something for the players. And I saw a statement yesterday that Kev Barton had said that, you know, he was doing it. I think he was referring to him that he was doing it for other reasons. And what other reasons other than we have 5 events at our club and our club makes a few quid over the bar? And he was talking about not even playing in it. You know, he's doing it because he wants the players to have something to play in. And who knows where it can go in the future? Who knows in 2, 3, 4 years' time if it can't be being held in big venues with, you know, with arenas with 500 or 1,000 seats. You know, if you get into £40,000 to the winner, people are going to stand up and take note, as in TV companies. It's about time that somebody did something like that because, let's be honest, English pool at the minute is just completely dead. It's at a stage where it's just pathetic. You have to remember with those tournaments as well is, yes, the prize money is high, but they're also staggered down. The break is staggered down properly. They're not going to be 5, 10 and 40,000 to the winner with a fiver to the runner-up. You know, they're broke down by halves all the way. So you only need to have a decent run in one of the events, and you're earning more than you can on any of the other tours. I think all of that stuff is just a no-brainer and doesn't really need sort of selling. I think it's just people are, and I just think the timing's perfect. People are fed up of having nothing to play in with no value and not getting the money, getting lied to, and it never growing. See, this guy Mark Bailey's been on again, and to be honest, it's people like you that annoy me saying stuff like what you're saying. That I explain that the tournaments that they're doing here are becoming so popular that the top 8 players, or the so-called top 8 ranked players on both tours, are now talking about dropping off the tours, as in asking the organisers to take their names off the ranking lists. So they are now not classed as being on a tour, so therefore they're now allowed to play in our events. So everybody is wanting in, and so therefore the top 8 theory thing on it doesn't work. So for example, if Mark Farnsworth, the #1 ranked player on the IPA, decides he wants to play in these events next year, he then takes his name, he drops off the tour and takes his name off the list. What you're going to start doing is say you have to have the 1 year out thing or the 2 year out thing, that the stupid rules that the other organisations have bought, and it just doesn't work. You have to open the tour up. Everybody is allowed to play. Those are the entry fees. That's the prize money to the winner. Those are the races. Those are the rules. You have to stipulate all that. If the players then enter, then they enter, and you have the biggest tour that has ever been for the biggest amount of prize money. If the players don't enter, then let them carry on playing all the stupid little stuff that people are doing, and just continue to moan about it. That's the bottom line to it. If they want it to change, they have to support it. And yes, I understand that not everybody can win the top prize. I get that. I get that the amateurs enter amateur events because they feel they have a chance to win money. I completely understand that. But it's not just to the winner. If a tournament is 40,000 to the winner, then that's 20,000 to the runner-up. That's 10,000 to the semis. That's 5,000 to the quarters. Are you telling me any of those amateurs that enter any of these big tournaments don't think they can get to the quarterfinals? So, yeah, obviously time will tell, and if there's 96 runners, which I'm adamant that there will be, then the series will go ahead with the prize money that has been stated. And I personally think it will certainly break the back of both of the other tours, and whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But that's not the reason that it's being done. It's not being done to jeopardise or harm any of the other events. It's just being done to give the players something to play for, something which obviously English 8-ball was needed. Well, it's his whole life basically. So anyway, we'll get back to the pool a little bit. John has said great comments, and yeah, thanks. I'm not the type of person to sit here and sort of dress things up the way they're not. I'm the type of person that just says it the way it is, and that's the way, certainly, that I see it. Yeah, while we're on the subject, Bob's come on and said, surely the standard is that good that people who enter will believe they can beat anyone on their day. And absolutely, of course they can. All of these players, including the 2 players that you're seeing here today, are capable of winning an event with any field. So, I just think that at the end of the day, when you grow up playing pool, you grow up to aspire to be the best you can be. Whether that be what your goals are, to be #1, or whether it's to be the world champion, or whatever or just to be the best in your local league team. Whatever it is, you aspire to be better than you are when you first start, and then once you get there, you get punished. And the main point that that I make on it is, if you did restrict it, then what happens to the best players, and the best 16 players in the world, let's say, are restricted from it. So then you've worked hard to get there, and then now you're restricted from the best. If the other two tours do then fold, so the EPA and the IPA tour then do fold, then what do the most elite, the elite 16 players in the world, what do they have to play in? They're restricted from this event. The IPA and the EPA is not worth playing on. Not that it is now, but it's not worth playing on. So what do they have? And I just don't think that's fair. Well, it's just not right. So if the tour gets supported with the 96 runners, then it will go ahead. And it will certainly be bigger than anything that's ever been done before. Jamie Murray said he thinks it could increase the amount of entries, if anything. To be the best, you have to beat the best. And no, I totally agree, you know, and there's no, for me, there's no sort of sense of achievement in saying, oh, I've just won a UK tour, to be honest, whether that be an IPA one or an EPA one, because all the best players are playing separately, and a lot of the elite players from the game are not even playing anymore because they've been drove out of the game because, well, for various different reasons. So is there a UK tour winner? No, not really. Is there a real world champion? No, not really, because everybody's playing in where, at least with an event that's potentially got 40,000 to the winner, you are certainly within the space of a couple of years going to have all the best players in the world playing in one tournament. Win one of those events, and then you have achieved something, and you've also won between 5 and 40 grand, depending on which event you win. All of a sudden, the prestige is back. Yeah, people are saying that, you know, they think that people would stay on their tours anyway. Not sure about that, just purely down to the cost. You know, if people are then paying for 2 tours, they then got to have double the amount of weekends off work or whatever it is. I'm not 100% sure if people would play on both. Maybe. You know, like I said, this wasn't started just so that players that just wasn't started just so that it could sort of collapse the other tours. That isn't the reason behind doing it. The reason behind doing it is to give the players something to play for. No, Craig said, could you have a 6th event for amateur only? No, the restricting side of things has to stop. I think the mindset of people of restricting people in the things has to end there. What Lee's looking at doing, which I think is the right thing, is having a bonus system built into the prize fund that gives the top-ranked amateur or the top-ranked non-elite player a bonus. Obviously, it's a tour event over 5 years as a ranking point system. The guy that finishes the top-ranked player that's of an amateur or of a non-elite, and you could just choose that yourself. So, for example, you could say, these are the elite 16 or these are the elite 32 players in the event. The other players are not classed as that elite. The person that finishes the top-ranked out of that also then maybe gets something like a 5 grand bonus. Sort of like a FedEx Cup type bonus for finishing where you finished. I think that's the way of doing it. So Steve said, do you think there needs to be a hybrid set of rules devised for the... I personally think that would be great to have a different set of rules played for the event. I just think that makes the tour even more unique than it already is. I think that would be brilliant to devise, and there is a set of rules out there that are much better than the Black Ball and the World Rules. So Stu said restricting the best tournaments from the best players is ridiculous. You aim to be the best, and that's exactly what I was. Exactly what I was saying. And basically what he's put on the end is you don't want to aim to be the 17th best ranked player in the world, do you? Which, well, you know, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's just Well, it's just ludicrous to consider doing something of that size and that scale and restrict the top 16 players in the world. It just makes absolutely no sense. It's either do it with the top 16 players playing and have the most elite tour that's ever been, or just don't do it at all. Yeah, so John said if that bonus incentive isn't enough to attract amateur players, then he must be mad not to enter. But there will definitely be some sort of bonus system in for the top ranked amateur player at the end of the series, and it will be a substantial bonus. You know, you're not talking about a grand. It will be, it will be sort of in and around the region of $5,000. That hasn't been set yet, so I'm not stating that's definitely going to happen, but that's what he's looking at doing. If he gets the entries, he will have money left over to put a FedEx Cup type bonus in for finishing number 1. Yeah, so Bob's asked, is there much difference between, say, the top 8 and the rest of the field? I think if you're talking about playing, like you say, a race to 25 or a race to 30 in a money match situation over a longer period, those players are ranked where they are and achieve what they've achieved for a reason. And your ranking is your ranking because obviously, you're better. But at the end of the day, English 8-ball, it's a lot. It's on the day, and when you're talking about players that can play to the sort of standard that, obviously a lot of these, and you use the word amateur, and let's be honest, there's a lot of players in this room that if there was a tour, then and the top 64 on the tour were professionals, that a lot of these players in this room would be ranked in the top 64, and that's for sure. So. The best players in this event, which is classed as the Players Amateur Championships, would be more than capable of winning one of those tours. Stephen Petty, who's the favourite for this event, would be more than capable of winning one of those events. Of course he would. These two guys you're watching here are more than capable of beating any player in the world on the day. Yeah, Craig said if the game is to grow, you need to have everybody in the comps. There's plenty of local amateur comps. I completely agree, Craig. Right, okay, so back to the match, and there's some stats for you. There's actually not been a break. It's now we're now in the 10th frame, and nobody has broken run. A reverse dish would be obviously a break dry and the opponent clears. There's only actually been one of them, so that sort of tells you that the standard's been poor, but it sort of hasn't. There has been a couple of balls missed, but I don't think it's been as poor as those stats suggest. Okay, sorry about that, I'm back now. Just quick break to blow the nose. Flush a bit of the man flu out. Had to fly out to China on Monday for the International Open. The top 16 Chinese players and 16 invited international players. So could do with the man flu going, and I'm going to get off the commentary after this match and do a little bit of practice. I'm not actually looking at the live chat at the minute. The guys are just doing something, so if there's any other stuff on there or questions, you have to bear with us. Cheers, mate. And Gav does play a lot of these shots with side. I don't know if he's going to. I think he needs to play this with the tracer running side, but he does play. He does play a lot of the shots with a lot of side. Big bounce. Look, see how quick that comes off the top rail. He's got the pace of the table a little bit better now. So from 4-1 down, Gav's 6-4 up, and I think Gav's one of those players where when he's on, and that's exactly what we're talking about with the other events. I mean, the thing to remember with the other events is a lot of the players are going to be backed into it as well. You know, they have sponsors and backers, and someone like Gav Lomax is the perfect person to sponsor or to back into one of those events, because he's got a serious amount of firepower. And I think the difference is he probably just doesn't produce it as often as some of the other top, 8 players in the world, if you like. But when he's on, he's more than capable of blowing anybody away. Anybody with serious amount of firepower like he's got is more than capable of. And when he turns up on a weekend and finds it, then he's definitely capable of winning the tournament. He's got a lot of firepower. Okay, so sorry about that. Just back on now. Got the live chat back on as well. I was just reading back through some of the messages and comments. There's quite a lot on there. Yes, Nick Finn says Steve Petty was 1-6 to beat Seb Webb, and 6-4 up Crowsdale, 1-4 to beat Ben Mackey, and lost last night. Craig Riddle says, got an example here. Mark Farnsworth in almost every comp I enter, and we're both from Sunderland last year. He won 4 or 5 events in the North East Tour. This year he hasn't won any, and there's been 4 different winners, as everyone else has improved. And I think that's the thing, you know, even though Mark Farnsworth is in those events, they still get the runners, don't they? You know, I understand the entry fee's not as high, but they do still get the runners, they do still get the entries. Yeah, and Nick Finn says Mark Boyle was 2-1 favourite. The last event we had here, which was 10,000 English the winner. Mark Boyle was a 2-1 favourite. It was exactly the same format as this event. And he ended up losing to Rob Warren in the end. Of course, it doesn't mean he's guaranteed to win, you know. Any favourite of any sport, whatever it is, you know, there's always a favourite, but the favourite doesn't really mean that you're guaranteed to win. It's any event that I've played in where, you know, they've said, oh, you're the favourite, you're this. It doesn't really mean anything. Being the favourite doesn't mean you're going to win the tournament. You still have to go out there and pot the balls. And most players in this room, well, certainly I would say, you know, the top 32 players in this tournament are more than capable of beating any player in the world on their given day. And that's what I was saying about somebody like Gav Lomax, who, when he goes on one, is, you know, when he hits a gear, he's capable of blowing anybody away. So just back to the pool here, and things are going sort of a little bit from bad to worse for Greg. From 4-1 up, he's had a bit of a disaster, to be honest. So it's been joined in the commentary box by Max Nosko.
Right, guys.
If you have any questions, I know we've just done a lot there on putting the World 8 ball to rights, and more about the state of the game at the minute and the state of both tours, and talking about the tour next year and stuff. But if you have any other questions or anything for Max, then obviously getting on the live chat.
Is that all the debate still going on? Everybody's still talking?
Yeah, we just sort of...
I think there's only one way, to be honest with you. But I'm not trying to start arguments and stuff. But I'm definitely joining this series next year. 100%.
And I think what the debate was there was only really one guy came on and just said you'll never get the runners if you don't restrict the top 8. And
Well, I think all 96 players here, or 95, because I think a guy dropped out from Morocco, they're all putting their money in, thinking they can win it. So everybody here can beat anyone on their day. So I'm pretty sure you're going to get it covered.
no, absolutely. And I think the big point to make is there's two really. The first one is, when we all started out playing English 8-ball, when you first picked a queue up, everybody aspires to be as good as that they can be. Now, whether that be ranked number 1, the world champion, whatever it is, you aspire to be better than you were when you started. And once you then get there, once you then become number 1 or number 2 or number 8 or the world champion or whatever it is, then all of a sudden you're then restricted from playing in what will be the best tour that's ever been, and for me that just makes absolutely no sense.
No. Definitely, I can't stress enough to get this filled up, to be honest with you, because I think the money that's on offer on both tours at the moment isn't great at all. And I think we need the amount of work and effort that most players do put in. The rewards isn't enough at the moment, to be honest with you.
No, I completely agree. And I think the other thing with it is, I know on top of once you strive to be the best that you can be, and then all of a sudden you're restricted. On top of that, you're then going to be left with playing on the EPA or the IPA tour, which that's what you're going to be left with for being, that's your reward for being ranked number 8 or whatever it is, for being the world champion or the best player all of a sudden. And then I think the main thing is that you've then got an elite tour which you're building up and bigging up and putting out there to be the biggest thing that's ever happened, but then you're restricting it, and it just doesn't carry the prestige of what you're trying to achieve if you restrict the top players away from it.
With what you just said, like with the World Championships and stuff, really there isn't actually an actual outright world champion, is there, at the moment?
No, and that's exactly another thing that I've just spoke about on here as well. Of there isn't a world champion at the minute, and there isn't. If someone goes, if Mark Farnsworth goes and wins the UK Tour this weekend, well, has he really won the UK Tour? Well, not really, no, because all the players, half of the players are playing in one side, and another half of the best players in the world are not even playing English 8-ball anymore because for whatever reasons they've sort of been driven out of the game, whether that be for financial reasons or for whatever. So, but if Mark Farnsworth turns up here next year and wins one of these series where all the best players will be playing, irrelevant to the rules,
I think these are going to be more prestigious than...
Without a shadow of a doubt. And, whether, I use Mark Farnsworth as a there just because simply, he's probably the best player, if not one of the best players in the world at the minute. And he's someone that, he's true to himself. He's not going to sit there and say, and I think it's the same with the world champion. Is Mikkel the world champion? Is Craig Marsh the real world champion? If you're being completely honest with yourself and true to yourself, not really.
No, I just think there's not going to be any competitions with all the top boys all going to be sticking unless everybody does join what Kenny's trying to do. And
another thing as well, which I said, was that they're playing for the same prize money now that they were playing for in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I wasn't around back then, but that's what people have said to me.
Keith Brewer was winning the old EPA rules, standing there for a weekend playing a frame for 3.5 hours and still taking home that sort of prize money when you could go away and buy a house for 15 grand.
Yeah.
When a loaf was 15 pence, the cost of living.
Now it's ridiculous.
Where now you're paying twice as much to enter, your expenses are twice as much, and you're playing for the same prize money. It just makes absolutely no sense.
No, it doesn't. So was it like back then, like the same entry fee and everything, was it? Yeah,
I mean, there was tournaments back then for 2 grand the winner. But the entry fee were obviously a lot less. I mean, I remember in the peak days of the UK tours. The pro events were 4,000 to the winner. The tours were 3,000, and the World Championships was 10. And that was.
How much was it when you won them, guys?
The 10. Yeah. All 3 of them were 10.
I think the IPA paid out 10 to Marsh. I don't know about the actual World Rules side. I don't know what the prize money is on that at the moment, but
No, I think that's
think
only
it's gone
five.
down-
Or I think
it's
it's
gone
5 or
down, is
6
it?
to the winner, which for a World Championships, we're playing for 7 here
playing
today.
yeah, that's right. Playing for 7 here, like. And if anything, this is probably better than the old run-down Blackpool Hotel, the Imperial Hotel.
Yeah, also, it was certainly better than the one that we used to play at after the Hilton. What was that called? The Norbeck.
Yeah, the Norbeck Castle. Yeah.
It was certainly better than that one.
There's been some like venues where they've put them in, they're ridiculous. What are you working to anyway, Gaz, at the moment?
What's that? Sorry.
You got any big events coming up?
Yeah, I fly out to China on Monday. They've introduced a new tournament called the International Open.
Yeah.
The top 16 Chinese players and 16 international invites.
Okay.
So I fly out on Monday for that, and that's 30 to the winner.
Some of the big like 9-ball players going over. Again.
There's a few. There's a couple of the snooker players going. I think Hendry's going. There's a few of the English 8-ball lads that I've got entries into the tournament, like Jack and Clint. And
Jack and Clint look like they're actually progressing a lot. And
Yeah.
Clint looks like solid at that game now.
yeah, he's good.
Never played. We got a few tables in Bristol, but I've never had like the time because it's on the other side of Bristol, and like the club that I practice at is on the same side as me, so I didn't really get across and stuff. But I would.
Well,
like
if I'm here practicing over the weekend. If we get a chance, we'll have to maybe have a game.
What's happening in this match anyway? Because I just got in the shower just about 40 minutes ago, and Greg was 4-1 up.
It was 4-1, and to be honest, at the start of the match, Greg looked really comfortable. The first couple of frames, he took out a couple of decent finishes, and then from 4-1, to be honest, he's had a little bit of a disaster. He's had chances. And
normally Greg's one of the players has one chance, and that's all he needs. Maybe I don't know.
But Gav struggled early on with the pace of the table. The cue ball was sort of flying all over the place, but now he's got
Pinging it around.
Now he's got the pace of the table. He's just really been feeding off Greg's mistakes, to be honest, and I'm sure Greg will be the first to admit that he hasn't played great. And I think the thing with Gav is he's one of them players where when he gets it going, when he hits a gear, he's dangerous.
Yeah, he's very dangerous. I think he's one-track minded as well, so if they're open, he's getting them. He is a class act. Has he left this? Like, is that right past him to yellows?
I think it may. It certainly goes rail first, yeah, and he's left him in the gap on the one that's on the bulk line.
You ever got any intentions of coming back to this game, Gus?
Yeah, well, that was one of the questions here from Craig Riddle. Said, could you be tempted back with the prize, with the increased prize money? And yeah, for sure. I mean, next year the events are going to be obviously held here at my club, so I will definitely enter the events, and I will definitely play. I'll try and play through. The rules are that you need to play 3 out of the 4 events to be eligible for the grand final, which will be then 40,000 to the winner.
Wow.
So I think the first 3 events will be 5 to the winner. The 4th one will be 10, and then the grand final will be 40. So
what would be like the quarters breakdown then in the big 40 one?
Yeah, well, I think that there'll be a proper breakdown. There'll be halves, so it'll be 40, 20, 10, 5.
That's classy.
So
this is a massive eye opener for everyone, really. Like, everybody loves the game, and then they're putting all the effort in. Why didn't you come into play in like tournaments like that?
And that was my point. Any player that's playing in this event today that's good enough to play in a £250 a man, or certainly the top, say, 32 players that are here today, are more than capable of getting to a quarterfinals of one of those events, of course.
I think if it all does go ahead, the is it series tour, whatever it's called, what Kenny's doing, I think a lot of people will end up probably trying to go play pool full time. I think with wages like that coming in, if they think that they're going to be run.
Yeah, there's a million things to talk about with this, and this was one of the things I spoke about yesterday. I think that's the reason why at the minute the standard in general of English 8-ball, certainly from I don't really see much, but from what I see here, I think in general the reason why the standard is struggling a little bit now is because nobody's playing it full time, because you can't play it full time. There's no money. I know you play a lot of money matches, and for me that's the only way to do it.
That's the only way at the moment. Yeah.
But if you didn't do that and you were just playing tournaments, well, it's not possible to
That's right.
Well, it's not possible to even.
Especially down south, like there's nothing ever going on at the moment. It's frustrating.
But even for the elite players that are doing well in the tours,
they're still not making enough money to
you
just
still
play
can't
pool.
you still can't make any money.
No.
So therefore, it doesn't warrant practicing 5-6 hours a day. People have to go out there and work and whatever, and that obviously has a big impact on the standard.
Exactly. And sometimes you're committed to work and you can't get the days off to come away and play on these tournaments. But I think most of the players that are going to have the chance to play in the tour next year at Kenny's Running, they're going to make sure they got them days off to come and play.
Absolutely. And one thing that will 100% happen is if that tour gets off the ground and within a couple of years, the standard will go through the roof. It was no coincidence that the standard of the darts is now. I mean, you look at it 15, 20 years ago. I mean, there was only one player that ever really had a 3-dart average. Now, every single week in the Premier League, every player has a 100 3-dart average.
103, 104, yeah, it's crazy.
Every single match, and that is because now the players are earning $1 million a year, and it warrants practicing 7-8 hours a day because they're millionaires.
Since you've been playing pool, has there ever been an option or like someone come to pool to try and force it through to make it as big as darts and stuff like that?
Not really. I've heard a few stories that.
I've heard a story. I just wanted to see if it was correct. That was all.
What the story you heard?
Apparently, Hearn went to Harwood, and Harwood told him to go away.
Yeah. Well, I did hear. I've heard a few stories like that, and to be honest, I'm not really going to comment because I don't know the full ins and outs. I've heard stories like that, but the bottom line is it's never happened, and
sad, really, isn't it?
It is sad.
It's got a lot of potential in it, this game, really. I think it's got, like, I was speaking to someone the other day, I think it's got a lot more potential than darts this year. But I think it will be a lot like, I think if they're going to get it televised, like stuff like this, like as big as what darts will be, but obviously I'm like talking a bit too...
Missed this.
Yeah, that's gone a little bit, has it? Or has he just missed it?
I think that started out wide, but...
Is that red guy? Greg needs this frame, doesn't he?
But one thing's for sure, I'm not sure about whether it's ever going to be in Darts League. But one thing's for sure, it's got a lot more potential than the absolute mess that it's in now.
Exactly. Exactly. You just got loads of debate, loads of slagging, loads of bitching and stuff. It's ridiculous. Like I remember started playing pool on the tours and I was like 14, 15, and just so much. No one wants to just join. No one wants to do that. I don't understand. I don't get that. And because it could be such a big thing, but oh well, it is what it is. People are greedy, I suppose, or something like that.
Yeah, and if the event gets supported, then there will be the tour next year for that prize money, and there's a million bad things for me happening. And since the split, it's it was never in the best of places before, considering, but since then it's just been unbelievably bad. So. This now gives the players a chance to have something to practice for, something. And like I said, if you're playing events that are 40,000 to the winner, then you will see the standard rocket through the roof because it warrants you then practicing for 6 hours a day.
People are playing like once or twice a week, having a knock for like 2-3 hours, but then when you got to go and play for 40 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, you're playing 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day.
Yeah, and that's the exact point with the darts. Even if the prize money in the darts was 2 grand to the winner and the players then weren't getting paid out when they'd won it, do you think they'd be averaging 105 every time they go out on the stage?
Exactly.
No, they wouldn't, because they wouldn't be practicing 6 hours a day.
Exactly. I remember I've heard so many darts players like in interviews and stuff, like when the interviewers have gone, what are you doing over Christmas then? Say for instance, like they say, what are you doing for Christmas, Phil? Like speaking to Taylor, he says, well, I gotta have a practice Christmas day. Like they're so committed because the money's there. That's why.
Well, yeah, like the out in China, the Masters event, which is I flew out sort of on a couple of days after Christmas a few times, and next year it's 150 to the winner. If I'm flying out on the 27th this year, trust me, I'll be in here on Christmas Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have to.
Yeah, definitely.
If I was rocking up to a UK tour on the 6th of January for 2 grand to the winner, I wasn't even sure it was going to get me money. Or not even just that UK tour, the other UK tour. They both just a load of rubbish. Let's call a spade a spade. They both shit. So. you know, I wouldn't be in here on Christmas Day, but you
No,
know,
you wouldn't. You definitely wouldn't.
the boys on both tours are going out to clubs and bars and out before they play in the match. And it's just because there's no prestige and there's no money.
No, you're exactly right.
So.
And they talk to you like shit.
Yeah. So anyway, we get back to the game here, and obviously Gav just missed an easy ball there, which was really to put the match to bed. Obviously 8-4, 7-5 is massive.
The only tricky ball is the black, really, isn't it?
And that's why he's just gone after it.
Yeah, he's right now. He's laughing.
So the route would be one over the right middle, one over the left middle, the one that's then in the middle of the table, and then the one over the left corner to the last.
Does it go past the red?
I think he played this one,
oh, right,
then
no.
that one.
So
and that
I don't know
one,
my
that
lefts and rights. I done a dry break for this frame. I think he's on the wrong way here, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the problem was when he potted the one over the right middle when he had 4 balls left, he didn't screw back far enough, so he left too much of an angle.
To play that red now, he wanted to be straight on it. He's not straight. But
So he's now going to pot this and top into the yellow, I think.
yeah, good shot.
To be honest, you know, I do like the way that Gav plays
Hits the
because,
ball well as well, doesn't he?
well, he hits it well, but when he's faced with a difficult pot, you know, he just gets down and
Knocks it in.
obviously not always knocks it in because, you know, all of us don't always knock it in, but he gets down and just addresses it as though it's over the hole,
Exactly.
which I think psychologically is a big thing to yourself because
Yeah, definitely. Because if you're big in the shot up
exactly.
for like 2-3 minutes,
Yeah.
you put more pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a big point. You know, if you're bigging the shot up and you're building it up to be something in your mind that is bigger than what it is, then, you know, at the end of the day, even if
Psychologically, innit?
yeah, it's big.
I don't think you're going to see many of them this weekend. Deliberate fouls.
No, the deliberate fouls one is. But I mean, look at the unforced errors.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it? For you'd think there would be hardly any in this kind of.
And
standard
we've
match.
played. You know what have we played now?
8-5?
12, 13 frames, and there's been 15 balls missed.
Wow.
And for a match of this, you know,
Sometimes
standard.
you don't see these players miss 8 balls in the tournament, let alone in the
Exactly,
match.
exactly. And Gav, this is like the 2nd or 3rd time Gav has done this.
He's racked himself bad, hasn't he?
He's dodgy wrecked himself here, and he has actually got a really big break.
They're horrible there, aren't they? Unless that bottom yellow goes past the red, but I don't think it does. Just playing a containing safety. So we are going to be seeing you back on this Bays then, Gaz, next year.
Yeah, I'll definitely enter, and China permitting, as long as.
Obviously, that's your main priority.
Yeah, and the objective for me would be to try and play 3 of the events. So obviously, I can play in the big one at the end, which I think will be everybody's goal.
So obviously, with that grand final, like you said, you get priority if you play 3 of the 4 events before.
So you have to play 3, and I think that there has to be that rule because you or else otherwise you would have
just
rocking up for the big one at the end when they've not supported the event. So
that's exactly right.
I think that has to be in place. Another thing which I spoke about when people saying about, you know, the amateur thing, which is a big thing that that Leah's going to put in, is he's going to put like a FedEx Cup type bonus in for the #1 ranked amateur player.
I think that's great. It's
So
more of an incentive for people, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll
Is it
create
just for one or like a ranking system?
No, so we'll create like an elite group of players who we think. So, for example, if we say, right, these are the elite 16 or these are the elite 32 players in the event, and class them as professionals, if you like.
Would that be based after the first year, or would you just say, actually...
Well, no, you'd have to say at the start, or else you wouldn't be able to do it. So you'd have to just say at the start, right, these are the players that we are selecting to be in this category of whether you call them elite players, whether you call them professional, whatever you call them, we select 16 or 32 players that we think are of that standard.
Okay.
You then do a ranking system over the 5 events, like a tour, like a FedEx Cup type bonus for the #1 ranked amateur for the rest of those players as like a $5 bonus for the #1 player that does the best.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that bonus will be probably most than what people are winning on the UK tour and IPA.
And then the amateurs have got their little, bit of something.
Yeah. It's just an incentive, isn't it? Like, people want to play. If they're putting their money in and hours and they want to get something out of it, don't they?
Yeah.
Like you said about Gav, though, then, like you said, he just takes every shot like it's over the hole. He's just got down and not even properly addressed the white and just slapped out the row. I know he's missed it. That's his mentality. I think it's quite good, to be honest with you.
Oh, and like I said, when he finds a gear, and that was my point. A lot of the players in the series next year are going to be backed in. They're going to be sponsored, and someone like Gav Lomax is like a backer's dream because.
Of course he is.
Yes, of course he can turn up to an event and have a bad time because of the way he plays. But if he turns up to an event and finds a gear, he's more than capable of just beating anybody.
I'd be very surprised if, like, say I was his backer and like I put him in all the events over the next year. I'd be very surprised if I didn't get at least my money back.
Exactly. And the thing with him is, if he turns up and he's on it, he's capable of winning.
Definitely.
Just because of the firepower that he's got.
Just like I said though earlier, I think everybody here has all put their money in. They think that on their day that it can beat anyone, and I think that's true. And I think you will probably get most of the people in this field entering these events next year, and I hope they do. Greg needs his frame.
I would have
played the bottom one first.
I would have played on the bottom one there. I don't know if he did try to play on the bottom one. He didn't look like his face expressions wasn't like he played a bad shot. So I just think he's.
Now, well,
yeah, but he's got to get the right side of it, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's played it well. He played it well.
When was the last time you played 8-ball UK ball?
A long time ago.
You don't even get like the locals trying to stitch you up and get you play league ball and stuff.
No, I did used to play in a league. Well, I am actually signed in one of the league teams with my mates on a Monday night, and I play when they're short.
Yeah. Big frame for Greg. Who won the lag? Greg. So yeah, it's his break now.
Yeah, Greg.
Ideal break dish for him now to get him.
And he's been cut breaking, but he's been putting the cue ball sort of quite close to the jaws of the left corner. And at the start of the match, he was making a ball every frame, and then the last couple of breaks, I don't think he's made one. But
do you agree with the cut break?
No, I think you should have to hit the front ball.
I think so too.
I think the rule should be that you have to hit the front ball, or the way to take that rule out is to either say you have to hit the front ball, or like they do at some of the American 8-ball events, they have a break box.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of a cheat way at breaking. I think. How does it feel? I don't think you're going to get a response from that, Dan. I want to be one of them, but I'm not yet.
I think that question was for me.
He's hit front ball there, mind. And they've come out all right, haven't they?
Have they? Has he got a starter?
Well, why doesn't he? Obviously, yeah, but you don't know where the balls are going to lay after. You could play yellow onto red, but then you have to get into that red over the bag after, don't you? Unless you played it with...
I think he's going to have to play your shot.
With pace, though, isn't it?
With pace, yeah. I think he could play your shot cushion first. If he plays the yellow into the top cushion first, hard.
Like, so it comes away the red from the bag.
So they all sort of want to come this way.
Cole Bedford, let's go, Max. He's one of my backers in like money games and stuff. He's a good lad. Why is the time?
11.
That's all right. They're there now anyway. It's come out sweet, hasn't it?
Yeah, and he didn't lash at it. He sort of just.
He wants. Is that red past the yellow into the middle? Got half a bag or no? Looks very tight, doesn't it? I think he's playing rail first here to hold for the red.
It does make a big difference actually if that red goes into that left middle.
It's dodgy, isn't it, that red?
Oh, he played that with left-hand side, and it just, because I said the table's so quick, it's brand new. He played it with left-hand side, and it just pushed in, and he nearly hit it too thick.
I remember talking to you last time, Gaz, when I was here, and it had that batch of cloth on there that was just ridiculous. They're still unbelievably fast, but they're nowhere near as fast as what they were that time, even though they're still great condition. I ain't seen nothing like it last time I was here.
Yeah, and I think especially on this table, the cushions almost play like steel blocks. So when you're under pressure, I think what you find happens when the table plays so quick is that you're scared of over-hitting it, so you then decelerate and sort of pull out of the shot.
What do you think of the blue cloth?
I like it in the sense of it creates a bit of like a unique look.
Wow.
Serious. That's a big frame, that.
That's crazy.
It's a big frame.
He could have just come to the side of the table there because the red did go.
It did go, and to be honest, I think that's the way that you should try and play 8-ball. If you don't have to play a cannon, then don't.
Like sometimes when I'm watching players, when like I'm playing someone, say like today or yesterday, and they got yellows on the rails and stuff, when it's perfectly easy enough just to chip it in down the rail, and people are trying to dislodge, because that's when things start going wrong.
Yeah, and if you take away relying on the lock in the sense of, if you're cannon into balls, even when it's the easiest of cannons, you are relying into a lock a little bit, where playing on balls is your own skill rather than... And that's the way I've always played 8-ball. I always try and land on balls.
Yeah.
I think I grew up obviously playing world rules. I do think black ball rules lends itself a little bit more to playing cannons in the sense of you haven't really got to worry about where the ball's going. But having said that, you do need to, in my opinion, only play a cannon when you have to.
He's all right, yeah. Just check it in. Some of the comments that are coming on this thing, what's wrong with people?
I'm not sure who Kevin Butler's on about there.
I think, I'm not trying to be a twat, but I think he's on about you for some reason. I don't get it. It's jealousy, my friend.
Yeah. It's alright, Kev, don't worry about it.
We'll let you off.
Yeah. It's easy, people.
I think the people that should be getting stick are the people that are just keeping the game at the same state that it is in. And then these people here are trying to push the game forward, and you lot are on here talking a load of rubbish to people. It's stupid.
Yeah, and there's a lot of keyboard warriors, isn't there, that sit there, say that sort of stuff, but obviously would never walk up and say that to my face. That's the...
Because Gaz is a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well.
And taekwondo.
I think this match is slowly getting away from Greg, isn't it?
Well, he's sort of half dodgy wrecked himself again. And they're easy.
Yeah.
Because this goes into the middle.
And it's a big bag as well, isn't it? So you could just play it. You could play it off the yellow if you wanted to, but I think that he's going away more from the position side for the staying on red.
I'm sitting right behind it. It does go, and the other red does go into the left corner.
This one.
Yeah.
Ah, right. Yeah.
That goes into the middle, and the other one does go into the left corner and the right corner.
Yeah, you're right. They're Mary.
It can go yellows as well, because I think the one does go past the red, but.
The beard is talking. The beard is spoken. I think this is a lot why the game is in the standards, and you've got people making their comments as like saying like people ain't going to put the money in, you ain't going to get the runners and stuff. They're just bringing everything down. Good, cool beard.
All right, Adam. What you want me to do? Some questions. What you got for me, mate? That's a really good shot actually there from Gavi. Just turned that over slightly. I was sitting right behind that, and
Very good shot.
he just slightly turned it over with a bit of right hand side.
How far do you think Lakin and Seb will wear? Well, Lakin's dangerous. He's a lot like Gav. If he's on it, he'll blow anyone away. Seb.
And Lakin is the defending champion,
Yeah.
so you've obviously got to say you can go all the way.
Do you reckon he'll have 16 Jaegers in the final like last time? What's that? He's had some run there, mind.
I just wanted to be clear there, Kevin. I wasn't slagging off any of the tour. I was just stating the facts that the players don't have nothing to play for anymore. And even when I was a part of the IPA, and I will always support the IPA, even when I was a part of it, it still had massive, massive downfalls, and still people a part of it that were holding it back and restricting it. Even back then.
Is Seb beat Petty, is he?
Sorry?
Is Seb Webb beat Petty?
I don't know, is he?
That's massive tournament favourite.
So
I think he's gone up with the...
All I was stating is that what we're going to be doing next year, and there was a press interview yesterday with Kev, and he sort of said, made a few comments regarding Lee and what Lee's doing here, which were completely wrong. So I was just clarifying those points that were completely wrong, and then I was only answering questions that were put in. Yeah, I said let's be honest. Yeah, both tours are now shit, and that is true. You know, but I'm just saying what my opinion is, and that's my honest opinion. They're not value for money.
Of course they're not.
One tour's not paying the prize money out to the players. It's just, that's what it is.
Wow.
Not saying that now just because Lee's looking at doing a tour from here. I've said that for 5 years.
I think everybody's just entitled to their opinion, but because of who you are in the game, they think they're going to just having a dig at you. Let them do what they want to do, Gus.
Seb Webb has beat Petty 11-6.
Wow. I was about to say something, but there's no need to get said on there.
That just goes to show
The quality in the field, isn't it? And anybody can be anyone. I think Petty was 1-6 to win that match.
Yeah.
Jed's laughing there, isn't he?
Yeah. So what that means that Seb would have been what, 4-1?
Yeah, 4-1.
Oh.
Is that rock back?
Did it?
It
Yeah.
looked like it rocked back a little bit, but
Let's. If we can have another. If we can get another look at that, but no. Oh, sorry. He's on the polystyrene crisps. That's why we can't get a look back at that.
can't get the staff, George.
Oh.
He's all over the place, isn't he? I've never seen Greg miss this many balls in a very long time. I don't know if I got called out then, but I think Carl still stood there. I got to play Carl now.
Who do you play now?
I played Carl Sutton.
Ah, right, okay. So that's the second round.
Second round winner's side,
The
yeah.
winner's side. And who did you play yesterday?
Aaron Davis.
Oh yeah, I did see a bit of that match actually. And what was the final score?
11-9. 7-3 up, and then I lost my concentration for some reason. I don't know what it was, and I just had to go and get in the toilet and that, and have a drink and that. And
He's one of those players where it's quite hard to stay focused, isn't it?
He's granite, isn't he?
Because he everything, even with like a ball over the pocket, everything sort of.
It's a lot like Mark Boyle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously not cueing wise, but the whole demeanour and everything. They were on if that dropped. Come on in, Greg. Give us some life in this game. I think he went through the loser's side in the big one, just gone Whacker one, didn't he? He got to the semis.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and I think he only lost by a frame or two.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I think he missed like an easy red to take him out, really. Gav's got a snooker background, hasn't he?
Gav, yeah. I'm just looking at his player profile here. Obviously, he's from Leicester. His achievements: he's got 6 years England international, national amateur champion, and he's actually got to 4 UK Tour finals.
Good pedigree.
Yeah, like I said, I think when he finds a gear, he's dangerous.
I seen that he was at like 33s before the event in the betting. That's a big price, isn't it?
It is for somebody that's capable of blowing anybody away. I think that the only thing with him is the consistency, and obviously over an event like this, double elimination, that's where you need to be consistent.
Yeah, I think it's hard as well. As soon as you get like knocked out of the winner's side, for instance, and then you got to go and play on the loser's side, your head's not completely right to go straight into it, is it? Kaz is the GOAT. He is the Federer of pool. I remember when I was bloody 14, 15, Gaz took 100 quid of my bloody gyro that I was on.
I did?
My pocket money, yeah.
Did I?
I didn't play you. We had a very deluded pool player from our area. I can't lose. I beat him 10 times on the board.
Oh no, you didn't back him, did you?
I don't know how he done it. It was I don't know how he done it. But he's a good salesman.
Yeah.
I was brainwashed.
To be fair, I think he's possibly the best salesman of all time, because the 3 big money matches he's played against Ronan, Jason and myself. So that's a pretty good salesman speech to sell those matches for. He's probably lost 50 grand over those.
Yeah, and he's lost to people that are nowhere near your standard as well, and Ronan's standard and Jason's standard as well. He hates my guts, that guy.
I don't think you lose any sleep, will you?
No, I don't.
Okay, he'll have a beer because he's stated in his status, I'm his favourite player. Makes the game look easy. He's been playing for 15 years, and it was his dad that inspired him to play. And he's stated for his achievements, what he would like to achieve. just whatever he can as long as he keeps enjoying it. I think that's a pretty good comment, to be fair.
Course.
Obviously, once the enjoyment goes, then it's hard graft, isn't it?
It is. Just Greg's. Cool, what lovely handwriting that is.
Well, Greg a beer as well, by the looks of it.
I think a lot of people beers, guys, if they got asked that question, to be honest with you. But I honestly think it's George Tierney.
So, this looks like end of match. Just,
Greg hasn't been at the races, but it looks like Gav's took his chances late on in this match to
it's
close
strange
it out.
because he was at the races at the start of the match. He looked really comfortable, so he's just got to play a little screw shot off the side rail to land straight. And it's strange because he was at the races, and obviously, you know, Greg is a fantastic player, and he'll obviously be disappointed the way that he's played there. But it is double elimination, and he did come through.
He's used to it. Well, he's not used to it, but at least he's already been there, done that, hasn't he? So he knows what he has to do.
Yeah, and the way to look at double elimination is, you know, at the end of the day, if this wasn't double elimination, he's on the motorway on the way home now.
Oh no, he's played that well actually. I thought he was going to have a little bit more side on it.
You are still in. Yes, it is a long way back, but it's not double elimination all the way down to the final. It's down to the quarters. So, to be fair, that wasn't the prettiest of matches by both, but it was the first match of the morning, 9 o'clock, and
normally as the day goes on, the standard gets. No one likes playing at 9 o'clock, do they?
Gav got the win, and I'm sure they would. Like I said at the start of the match, they both would have been disappointed that they drew each other in that match, because both of these players are more than capable of winning this event.
Yeah,
so.
Of course they are.
The next, I'm not sure what the next match on the stream is, but I'll find out for you and let you know, and that will be at
11:30.
11:30, so 10 minutes. I'll go and check with the guys, and we'll post up on what the next 3 stream matches are. So thanks to Max for nipping in, and all the best with your match coming up.
Speak to you in a bit, mate.